Saint Francis Xavier is a well-known Christian missionary and a miracle worker. But very few people know that he was also a man who fought for justice on behalf of those who were oppressed, the poor, and especially the local Indians. He was a person who would boldly challenge any injustice done to anyone. When he arrived in Goa, he saw people involved in slave trade. He would collect money and pay the dealers and redeem the slaves and let them go free. In Cochin, he encountered that Christian converts were sold as slaves by Arab traders. He wrote to the governor and to the king himself that this should stop. In Tuticorin, he encountered some Brahmins who were deceiving and cheating poor, ignorant people in the name of God and instilling fear in their hearts by which they would gather food and wealth and leave the poor to be poor. He objected about this and began to educate people and teach them that God is a Father. He began to uplift the conditions of the poor by requesting the Portuguese governor to provide privileges to the poor, and he made sure that it was done. The newly converted Christians continued to remain in poor conditions. Saint Francis Xavier appealed to the Vicar General Miguel Vaz and the governor that they should be provided with privileges so that their lives become better. Saint Francis Xavier believed that education would uplift people from ignorance and pave way for them to be better citizens. He therefore took the charge of the work of the College of Santa Fe, later known as St. Paul's College, here in Goa. This would be the first European college or educational institution in Asia, where students from various parts of Asia, including Japan, Malacca, from Africa and even Europe would come and study. Some may even think that Saint Francis Xavier was a puppet of Portuguese, but that was not true. Though he was an ambassador of the Pope and the King himself, he never misused his privilege. He even revolted against the conduct of the Portuguese in India. In a letter dated 24th March 1544, from Manapod, he wrote to Francis Macias to tell the commander of Travancore to set free a slave of the Raja of Travancore who was mistreated by Portuguese. He also reported that the Portuguese had suppressed the rights of the native people, which was not right to do. He confronted them and wrote to the commander to warn them. Again, in a letter written on 2nd September 1544, he reported and complained about the misconduct of the Portuguese soldiers against the locals, saying that the Portuguese soldiers were acting as if children of the devil. When he realized that his complaints are not being taken into consideration, being upset with the scandalous life of the Portuguese in India, and after witnessing the kind of oppression they laid on the native Indians, he wrote a letter to King John III of Portugal on 20th January 1545, demanding from the King John III to punish the Portuguese officials who had failed in their duty and to replace them with good ministers. He wrote many letters to King John III of Portugal on the same issues and the missionary work. The highlight of the letters dated 20th January 1548, 28th January 1549, 23rd June 1549 and April 1552 was his demand that Indians be treated as equal citizens like the Portuguese, which is why we may see that the Portuguese may have had slaves from other parts of the world, but they never treated Indians, especially Goans, as slaves, but as equal citizens. The life of Saint Francis Xavier and his prophetic mission to raise his voice against injustice must inspire us to raise our voice against injustice that happens in our society. Injustice could be implemented through some public policies by governments, through ideologies of some politically affiliated groups, through the capitalists and the rich, and even by our neighbors and friends around us. Many times, in order to preserve our relationships with our friends and relatives, we keep silent and don't correct the people close to us when they do wrong to others. But Saint Xavier put Jesus first and loved everyone the way Jesus loves, which is why he could do that. Let's learn to inculcate the virtue in us through the intercession of Saint Francis Xavier, who was truly a prophet of justice.